Welcome to episode 124 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny, bringing you a wonderful show tonight where we finish off the first week of the NFL season. We move to week 2. We're going to do a quick Phillies update before we do that. And as always, we preview the Eagles, get into our picks from last week and our picks going forward. Let's go around the horn. I got Jason Sayeta with me.
Hey, Tom, what's up?
Jason, how are you? I got Jimmy the Chalk.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday for now. You'll see in the next few minutes. It might not be for you. And I got Christopher Michael Meeker.
Good evening.
How are you, sir? Before we kick this off, this episode is brought to you, as always, from our sponsor, Giovannina's Pizza. You tried the rest, now try the best. Kick off your NFL season with a slice from Giovannina's. All right, so I'm going to read you the Urban Dictionary of the definition of a clown. Someone who is a joke. Okay, now I'm going to read you a random pitcher's stat line. 2.1 innings, 8 hits, 9 runs, all earned and 3 walks. Jason, do you know who that is?
I believe it's who I called a clown last week. Seth Johnson?
That would be Seth Johnson. Chalky, I believe you defended the clown comment of one Seth Johnson.
I just said we didn't know he's going to be a clown yet. But Jason was absolutely right in that he turned out to be a clown.
Oh, my God. Well,
I have further stats, not only Seth Johnson's, but when you get to me, I have more stats.
Apparently, AAA is the only place they can't hit him because I guess he got hit a little bit at AA, and the Marlins certainly took their turns having their way with him on Sunday. So,
well, that segues us right into the Phillies. A quick update on the Phillies. They since that was Sunday. Since that game, they won. What's today? Wednesday. They won the next 2, so they took 2 from Tampa. They're currently leading in today's game 2-1. So by the time the episode's over, we'll know. So they bounced right back. I mean, they took 2 of 4 from the Marlins. I know Chalky in the group was saying 3 or 4. I think Chalky even said 4 or 4 after watching some of that first game. But they did take 2 of 4. Jason, quick update. We got Ranger, who's starting to look like could be a potential problem there. Injuries are starting to pile up for them. Obviously, the injuries don't look to be like super long term, but I mean, in the interim, they're starting to pile up. Give us an update on the Phils.
Yeah, so right now they're 3.5 games up on the Brewers. They're still 8 games up in the division, so that's a foregone conclusion. The division starting to look like they're pretty solid as far as having the bye also, but the 5th starter again I'm going to bring up now. Luckily, there's only 3 more spots for the 5th starter remaining, but in the last 3 starts for their 5th starter, they've gone combined 9 innings, 29 hits, and 21 earned runs. I mean, come on.
And I would venture to say they let up a run in the first inning of every one of those starts, too.
I'm pretty sure they did. So it's obviously a problem. There's only 3 games left. It looks like they may, avert a disaster. But you still have to admit that I think Dombrowski dropped the ball there. Now, I don't want to, make this a total negative spot because, like I said, they actually have the best record in baseball right now, and they're looking pretty good to get a bye. But Tommy mentioned Ranger Suarez, and I mentioned last week his velocity was down in that game, and he had the AAA Marlins he was pitching against, so it didn't really matter. But last night he just got tattooed. I mean, I think he gave up the most hits he's ever given up.
Ever.
And every ball was hit hard. Every single ball was hit hard.
His velocity is down. Like, you can't – I don't care that he's not a guy – somebody else, not one of you guys, but I was talking about it. He was like, well, his velocity doesn't matter. Because yeah, it does. Like, you can't – he's throwing 70-mile-per-hour curveballs. Come on, man. I mean, you can't do that in Major League. That's almost an eephus pitch. So he's a problem. And it's starting to look like, and we could discuss this, but it's starting to look like Sanchez may have passed him by in the playoff rotation. And if he did, is there a possibility that, since we've all mentioned before, Sanchez is great at home and he's not great on the road? do you pitch him in game 2 of the series? So,
Yep.
what's your guys' opinion? I'll give you my opinion. I think you do.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'll talk on that because that was one of my points I wanted to bring up tonight. I don't know how you can make it work out. You can make it work out with him pitching game 2, but I was trying to think of how you can make it work out where you pitch him game 2 and then you also, in Suarez's start, hope that you have a day off the next game, because if you have a short leash on Suarez, you're going to have to use a lot of bullpen pitchers. So I don't know if they can work that out, but I'm not,
Yeah, but wait a
Nola,
second, Meeker. Aren't they going to go to 3 starters because you got days off and on in the playoffs, or are they going to actually use a 4th starter?
I think they're going to use a 4th starter. Yeah, they're going to use a 4th starter. So, of course, you would go Wheeler 1, you would go Sanchez 2, you would go Nola 3, and then you would, land on Suarez 4th, depending on how. Because I haven't looked at it, but depending on how they have these their first round games, is there going to be a day off somewhere in there, or does it go 2 day off, then what 2-1 or 2-3-2?
Well, it's usually a day off between
The
travel.
travel, yeah.
Yeah.
Did
That's the only day off
Sanchez
they have.
pitch last year?
But last year they got away with only using 3 because they had a
Right.
day off between games 1 and 2, and then a day off between games 2 and 3. So Rangers started games 1 and 4. So in the short 5-game series, you might be able to get away with it if you get that kind of scheduling. But there's no guarantee they'll end up with that schedule.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Like if you can slot Suarez in a game that, if it's even necessary, but in a game that you can have a day off the next day, that's the best spot for him, because I think that he's going to have a short leash. You're going to have to use a lot of bullpen pitchers, and you don't want to use slot bullpen pitchers as long as he's keeping you in the game. So that's what I would do. Sanchez is better at home. Start him at home. Nola, it doesn't matter to me where he's pitching, home or away. So I think that's fine. Put him in the 3rd spot because you're going to have home field. So they're going to the first 2 games are going to be at home. And, hope you get out of that series in a sweep. But, if that doesn't happen, then you're going to have to pitch Ranger in game 4. And I'm worried. And I told you last night, Jason, the thing about a pitcher, when they're throwing a lot of breaking balls, is he doesn't trust his fastball right now. He just doesn't trust it. Whether it's velocity, whether it's location, whatever it is, he's not trusting himself. And that's not good for a starting pitcher when you're not trusting your fastball. The best pitch is the best located fastball.
I don't think he's trusting it because his velocity's down.
Because
Like
it's
if
slow,
you're throwing an 85 mile per hour fastball, I could hit it. I mean, they're going to crush it. So there's issues with him for sure.
Chalky, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like last night he kept going back to the curveball. He didn't want to throw anything else, and there, no velocity, no movement is going to get hit. I'm not moving Sanchez into. I'm not playing with the rotation like that. Like if it's a 5-game series, I want Wheeler, and unless you think he's better than Nola, Wheeler and Nola got to go 1-2 and then come back for 4 or 5 or whatever if necessary. I'll probably be more forgiving with Ranger than a lot of people, but he's definitely got me concerned because he's inconsistent. He's been like every other outing since he came back has been 4 or more runs, I think it was. And he hasn't gone past, I don't think he's gone 6 in any of the games. So that's going to put pressure on Wheeler and Nola to make sure you get at least 6 out of them. Sanchez, to me, there's not really going to be another option. So, like, you want to get, if you get up 3-0, it won't matter. But Suarez, Suarez is worrying me. And I'm at that point too. And I would like to be able to get a couple more wins now. So maybe you can skip him once in the rotation before the season's over. And then you get the layoff with the bye, give him a little more time to rest. And then, maybe you only need 4 more starts out of him the rest of the way or something like that. But if he's not going to trust himself and if he's not going to trust the catcher that's calling the game, I don't know that you can really, you might as well make it a bullpen game and give him 3 innings at that point. I don't know that you can have him out there for trying to get a full start out of him.
Exactly. That's why I say that, you're hoping you have a game off if it goes to another game, you hope that you can slot him in where there's a day off the next day. He pitched into the sixth inning last night and had 5 swing and misses in 5+ innings. 5 swing and misses all night. That's not Ranger Suarez.
So the problem is, it might not be that he's tired. It might be there's an issue. There's a
Yeah,
problem. Like
because
he's
he
hurt
was off. I mean, how long was he out for? He missed.
a long time.
Yeah,
Like at least a
More than
month.
a month. Yeah.
and it's
More
not
than
like
a
he
month.
came back and looked great and then fell back off. He hasn't looked good since he's came back. So I don't even
No.
think any more rest could do it. So I mean, there's the question of what you guys would do, but then there's the question of what do you think Topper's going to do? Because knowing Topper, he sticks with the guys. You know, he doesn't really like change that. So it'll go with Suarez in Game 3, and
I think he could. I think he could get around that by saying he wants to split up the righties. You know what I mean? Like go righty, lefty, righty. It's like something like that to just kind of not admit the obvious that Sanchez is bad on the road and he's good at home. You know what I mean? Because eventually they're probably going to have to use him on the road. So he doesn't want to say anything like that. So
yeah,
he's going to have to make up something to do it. But that's what I would do. I mean,
but do you think he even does the flop of Ranger and Suarez and Sanchez?
I do. Yeah,
Or
I
does he
do.
stick with his
No, I
rotation?
think when your velocity's down, it's alarming to the guys in the know, which is obviously them. Like they know when your velocity's down, there's a problem. If his velocity wasn't down, maybe not, but his velocity's down.
We've talked about it in previous podcasts that he's always had a short leash with Suarez, in the playoffs. So nothing's going to change with that, and especially now, So I think, you don't have a guy, I don't think, on this staff that can give you like 3 innings and do like a bullpen game, like Chalky was saying, and have to really stretch out a guy. That could have been a guy like Turnbull, or you're not going to trust Walker, obviously, in that situation. So that's why you hope that there's a game that they have off the next day, because you're going to have to use a lot of guys in that game, and that's it. That's the strategy I think you have to employ.
I mean, I'm at the point though. I don't even know how confident I am in Ranger giving you 3 innings that are going to be like
No,
solid. Yeah, I mean,
he's going to come in and get smacked around because his velocity's down. Like
right.
I don't know where Turnbull is.
Yeah,
Like,
I was just
where's
going to ask,
Turnbull?
has anybody heard on the Turnbull?
No,
Now that you mentioned him, Meeker?
He'd be nice to have in the bullpen for.
I mean, he's not out for the year, but I would not at this point. You can't expect him to come back.
Yeah, you can't expect him to come back and be effective and give you 3 innings either. So yeah, I think they're stuck with this situation. I mean, and we talked about it. I don't know how many podcasts ago it was, but when the trade deadline approached, he was hurt already.
Yeah.
So if you say the people in the know or they don't know, they knew the injury was an arm injury. If they thought they needed assurance, they should have signed another starter, and they didn't do it. And now he's back, and he's not himself. And now we're going to have to depend on him in the playoffs, and I don't think you can depend on him. And that's unfortunate, because they're going to face some good teams in these playoffs with good lineups, and that's going to be a problem.
All right, let's jump to football. Wrap up the Phils here, as we're already into the show. All right, let's do a little recap of Eagles Friday night in Brazil. They come out with a 34-29 win. I know myself and Jason both had the Eagles. Everybody's score was relatively close. I mean, to be honest, everybody kind of predicted points. And I guess it started off a little slow with some field goals, but then ultimately, like you saw the points. Well, Jason, what's your first reaction with the Eagles? What you thought of the game and moving forward.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it played out exactly the way I thought and most of us thought. Two bad defenses, a lot of points going to be scored. I'll give you the good and bad. Barkley obviously looked great in the offense. I have a nice 30-1 bet on him to win Offensive Player of the Year, so that's looking pretty good right now. If he stays healthy, the offense itself, after a pretty bad start, the offense itself looked good, and Zach Bond was all over the field. He looked really good. Now I'll get to the bad. I thought Hurts was bad. I mean, he had two bad interceptions, and he could have had a pick six that got dropped that I saw, and I think there was another ball he could have got picked off. Like, I don't know what he was doing, but he was not good in my opinion. Obviously, the defense got gashed. So I think the defense. uh, I've said it. I think the defense is going to be a problem, specifically the pass rush. And then to me, I mean, Love was bad in that game. Like, he was wildly, wildly inaccurate, and he was throwing balls behind receivers and stuff. And if he doesn't do that, they might not win that game. So
Yeah, but you can't play the what if game. I mean, if N'Kobe Dean doesn't
I
drop the
understand, but
ball in
Love
his
was
hands,
terrible in that game. Love was bad.
yeah,
Like,
but
he
if
was
Hurts doesn't
wildly
throw a
bad.
red zone interception, they definitely win. I mean, there's a lot. You can go every way with that.
But he was bad. He was bad, and that's why he threw a red zone interception. So they won the game as I thought. I'm impressed with the offense. I'm not impressed with the defense. I'm not impressed with Hurts.
Yeah, I mean, I think the field, first of all, is a disgrace as always, and that just like in the Super Bowl, that field favors offense. The defense has no push on the defensive line. You saw a couple. I think CJ, whatever his name, he missed that one open field tackle where he just fell. I mean, the receivers. I mean, that's the offense. Receivers were slipping. So I don't take much from that game as far as the pass rush for the Eagles. I think it is a concern. Now, if you see it again, I think it's going to continue to be a concern. But I do think that field really mitigated a lot of the defenses on both sides. I felt good after the game. I mean, some of the worries I had about the Eagles, they like the offensive line, I thought looked awesome. Besides the snaps that they had a couple snafus on the snaps, Jurgens was getting second level blocks. I thought Beckham looked really good. I thought the offensive line looked good. The defense at times, I mean, they had two big red zone stops. That's what defense is today. I'm sorry. Defense is stopping teams in the red zone and making one big turnover. Otherwise, teams are mostly going to score on defense. So I mean, I was down on the Eagles to start, and that left me a little bit better. And I still think Hurts is what Hurts is. He's going to make a lot of nice plays, and if he makes mistakes, he's going to be bad. In 2022, he didn't turn the ball over, and they went far. In 2023, he was a turnover machine, and they didn't. So, I mean, I'm at the point where I don't know if he's going to clean that up or not. I mean, he has to clean up. If they want to be good, he has to clean up. You can win with Hurts, but he's not going to be the reason necessarily that you're going to win these games. He's going to have to not make the big mistakes. He's not going to be Mahomes, or he's just not. He's just not a great quarterback. But he can make plays at times. I mean, that last drive, he made a lot of nice throws and a lot of nice plays that won that game. So he could do that. But to Jason's point, you can't have turnovers that bad. I mean, it just kills you. And the fact that they still won the game with those turnovers, I thought was pretty big. But I need to see. I mean, I obviously need to see more. So I'm not still not sold on the team as overall. Chalky?
Yeah, I mean, okay, first week jitters, first week sloppiness, you can write some of that off. But for me, I'm not giving the Eagles as easy of a pass because some of the issues that we saw in week one were issues that we saw throughout the second half of the season last year. So a lot of the same old. But they won more than a few ugly games last year where they did a lot wrong, but they made more than enough plays. That, first drive, interception bad. Did Barkley slip on the first or second drive? Like, when the first play of whatever drive it was, he slipped. The drive was dead at that point. Like, that killed that drive. And
first play of the first drive,
yeah. It wasn't affecting the offense as much as defense with the footing, but Love was clearly having trouble with his footing at different points. And so I think that contributed to some of his inaccuracy. Hurts really didn't have a problem with it except for the one run late in the game where he could have easily got another 5-10 yards, but he slipped because the field was whatever. But you get past those first two drives, and you mentioned it, Tommy, but the defense gave up 7 plays of 20 yards or more, which was the most in the league. But yet, when the offense turned the ball over twice in the red zone, close to the goal line, they managed to get out of there with 3 points each time. And that really made, in the end, the difference in the game. But those next 4 drives, whatever, where the Eagles put up 24 points, you see that and you're like, okay, like the line is working. Hurts is making good decisions. Barkley's getting downfield, and guys are getting open. And he made, touch on the Barkley was a very nice throw. It was a great route. But then you have the first interception and the last interception where it's just like, what are you doing? Like, it's not like, oh, well, that was a 50-50 ball, or, the defender made a great play. Those you can't make those throws, especially at the end of the game where it's like you just keep it or throw it away and kick a field goal, and now you're up 2 scores or whatever it would have been at that point, right? So Hurts, I mean, that might be what Hurts is, but you got to hope that there's a way that hopefully somebody can coach into him, like, you can't make that throw. And I don't have the stats written down, but one of the things we talked about with Moore was his use of motion. And Hurts, his numbers when they used motion were off the charts. When they didn't use motion, he was abysmal. And you can't run motion on every play, but clearly that's something they're going to have to work out because he might be more comfortable there. The other thing with Hurts that worries me a little bit is, he made a couple plays with his legs at the end, but when he holds the ball really long, and Jason talked about he holds the ball longer than any quarterback in the league, like if it's past a certain point, like he's staying in the pocket, and those never turn into throw up plays where he makes a completion down the field. And by then it's too late for him to go run and do something. So if the play is going to break down, he's got to have an internal clock that he breaks to go run at a certain point, because he's holding it way too long to either run or throw with a couple of the plays there. So, that concerns me. But all in all, you got out of there with a win against a playoff caliber team before Love getting hurt. So you're not going to complain too much, but there's always going to be stuff to clean up.
Yeah, Meeker, thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, you guys covered most of what I wanted to say. I mean, it was a sloppy game all around. Quarterback play on both sides. The turf was abysmal. The penalties, the run defense was tore up in the second half after having a pretty decent first half. I thought their secondary played well, aside from the botched coverage on that touchdown to Reed with Gardner Johnson. Thought Zach Bond balled out. Never seen that in New Orleans, so that's a first for me. And from an offensive perspective, you kind of touched on most of the things I wanted to say as well. I mean, just what Chalky said, his decision-making with running when a play breaks down in 2022 versus what it's been for the last 2 years, I just don't know where it's at. I mean, I don't know if this is him making that decision or the team telling him not to do that. I just don't know.
It's not the team. He's slow. He's slow anymore. His lateral movement is slow.
He is slow. And the one thing I wanted to mention, and I didn't, was I think Green Bay took his running out of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was part of their game plan. So,
he got nothing out of the RPOs. His only good runs were pass plays where he then tucked it and went.
Because they were like, we're not leaving you. You want to pitch it?
The book on Hurts is he's gonna go to the right when he breaks his pocket and make him beat you to throw the ball. I mean, it's
right.
It's what they do. It's the Lamar Jackson type of way. We can get into it, but and the fact that, like Jimmy said, he does hold it, and by the time he's ready to break it, he doesn't outrun. He's not even outrunning defensive linemen at this point laterally. Yeah. So, which I don't know what you think.
So what's right? Okay, so what's the difference in these last 2 years? How do you get slow in 2 years? He's only 26 years old. Is it?
I saw some things going around, like he's getting to be too big. He squats 600 pounds. It's cool. He squats 600 pounds, but
big guy.
Lamar Jackson dropped 10 pounds in the offseason to become quicker and leaner. I mean, you don't need your quarterback to be that big. I mean, but when he runs downfield, he's fine. He's like a running back. He's big. He he gets churning and he's fine. But
Yeah.
it's that lateral movement. So maybe it is. Maybe it is too big at this point. As far as like physical size, I don't know. I mean, but he's noticeably slower than he has been in 22 specifically, because last year he was
Yeah.
kind of slow too.
And like you said, Tommy, I mean, when he can look really good and he can look really bad, and you just got to hope that when he looks really bad or he makes a big mistake that it doesn't cost you. And in this game, the turnovers that they did make only resulted in 6 points. And I think that was the difference in the game. And that's the reason why the Eagles won. But that, and then you can do the all what ifs, or what if this happened or what if happened. Well, what happened was they only scored 6 points. But if another team scores 14 points off of these turnovers, they lose. So they got to clean that up. I agree, that their pass rush was pretty putrid. I didn't even hear Huff's name, I think, the whole night. So I don't know if he was invisible or what's going on with him. And Saquon is a big difference maker on this offense. It's the bottom line. I mean, this guy, toiled around with a terrible team and a terrible offensive line and a terrible offensive game plan for years. He's in a good offense right now, and I think he's going to be a huge difference maker going forward for the Eagles. But, the one thing that they did do, and I'll leave it on a positive note, is that last year when they had situations like they did and going into the fourth quarter, this team probably would have fell apart and lost the game. But in the fourth quarter in this game, they showed some resilience, and that's the one thing you can take away from it against a good team. I mean, let's admit it. I mean, I don't think Green Bay played their best game, but it was against a good team. Under the same circumstances last year, I think I would have expected them to lose, but this year they won this first game, so that's good. If I'm going to leave it on a positive note.
Yeah, I mean, actually, at start the first 11 games when they were 10-1, they did win these games, though. I mean, look, like Chalky alluded.
Talking about the second half of the year.
Yeah,
last year.
I mean, as a whole, you got to give Sirianni and Hurts credit as they win close games. They win these toss up games a lot. Now, again, last year it fell apart, but a lot of times they do win these games. But like you said, Meeker, it all just comes down to the defense stopped them on the turnovers. But you're not going to sustain success. He can't turn the ball. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Is just he just can't turn the ball over. They can win if he doesn't turn the ball over. Now the question is he capable? You saw a season or 2 seasons almost where he was capable, but then you saw last season and you saw the first game of this season where he's not capable. So I don't know. You don't know, I guess, truly what he is still. I mean, he's still on the younger side. So we'll say. I mean, week 1 overall was sloppy. I mean, you watched the games; they were pretty sloppy for everybody. All right, let's get into some predictions for the week coming. I mean, we'll talk about the game first and then get into predictions. Chalky, I'll let you go first here. Eagles host the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football. I think they're 6.5. Is that correct?
Yeah.
6.5 point favorite as we speak.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football. What do you think?
6.5, and that's with juice. That's minus 115. Talking about sloppy play and bad. I watched a good portion of that Atlanta game, and that they might not have been the worst. The worst team in the league might have been the Giants last week, but Atlanta was right there. And again, guys that can't physically perform, Cousins, you can go out and read the breakdowns. His mechanics, his everything is all kinds of all over the place. So that was an ugly, ugly game. Steelers win without even scoring a touchdown with a backup quarterback. So, I mean, everything screams should be an easy win when you look at the film. And, it's never that easy, but it should be that easy because, Cousins shouldn't physically be able to be better in 1 week. And, I don't think the Eagles defense is quite as bad as they looked at times. This should be a double-digit win. It's still early in the season, so who knows what can happen. But this is, to me, this is like a 31-13 game, I think. I mean, primetime Cousins, is known for a couple bad turnovers, and this is like the third year in a row that their real home opener is a night game against Cousins, which is crazy. But Atlanta just looks so bad, and I just, if the Eagles can even play like they did against Green Bay with the warts, they'll still win by double digits. So I'm going to say 31-13, relatively comfortable win.
All right, Meeker, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, Falcons played simply awful last week, and Cousins looked rusty, made a lot of mistakes. I don't know where these guys don't play in the preseason, and this is like their preseason, like these first 2 or 3 games of the season, but he just looked terrible. And one thing I'll say, like Bijan may be a big factor in this run game, seeing what happened to them last week in the run game. Their pass rush is in Atlanta is still a problem, and they should have addressed that with the draft, and they didn't. So I think Hurts will have time to get it to his receivers, and I think the key matchup is their wide receivers versus Atlanta's secondary, and then Grady Jarrett against Lane Johnson. So I think it's the first game of the year for the Eagles off a long travel, but they had home game of the year off a long travel, but they had the extra 3 days off. So I don't think that's going to be affecting the game. I think it's going to be a bit high scoring. So I think the Falcons offense is a lot better than what they were last week. But as I've said, I never bought the Falcon love. I don't really think they're a good team. I think their D is trash, and I think the Eagles do win comfortably. I'm going to call it 31-20.
Okay. Jason, your thoughts?
Yeah, so everybody had their panties up in a bunch because the Falcons drafted a quarterback first. I don't know what his contract is, Cousins, but is there a chance that they have an out after this first year and they just took a chance on him, saying, I don't know if this guy's going to come back from this injury. He's pretty old, and, we'll take a chance on him. We have Michael Penix as our insurance policy. That's kind of what I think they did. Now, again, I don't know what his contract looks like. I thought I heard that there's a chance for them to get out of it after this.
It's not long. I think it's only 2 years, right? Maybe.
So that's why they drafted Michael Penix. I mean,
my problem with that logic was you pay Cousins that money at the end of his career because you want to win now. So you're bringing him in to then don't sign him, draft that quarterback, and then sign somebody else that'll help. That's the I get the logic of he's not going to be around long, but
you're not going to win now with a rookie quarterback. I mean,
but why pay Cousins that money if you think you're going to need him, the rookie quarterback, right now? It doesn't. It's poor math. Whatever.
I don't know if he got an out after this year, but he signed the 4-year contract for $180 million.
I think it's 2 years.
In theory.
I think it's 2
years. Okay.
2 is right out.
So from what I've seen and heard, like he was in the shotgun most of the game, so he has no mobility right now. I don't know if that's going to come back at all this year. I don't know what the issue is. Maybe he just didn't heal like they thought he was going to heal. As you guys mentioned, he's not good in prime time. I think the Eagles win the game. I think it's high scoring again. I think a lot of Eagles games are going to be high scoring. I think they'll win 30-23, something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, do you think this line goes to a full touchdown or?
Hope not.
That's a big jump because it opened at 4.5. Like it already went up 2 points.
Yeah, so, I mean they're juicing it. They don't want to go to 7, so they're giving you the incentive to take it at 6.5 at a higher price than.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to go 30-24 because I don't know if they're going to cover. I'm going to go 30-24.
All right,
but
just to echo what you got, I think Cousins. I think Cousins' health is part of the issue right now. And to Meeker's point, I was not another one that was not too big on Atlanta. I know they signed a bunch of guys, win now guys in the secondary, and I don't know. I didn't really see it, and I still don't see it. Now I picked them last week to beat Steelers because I thought the Steelers were going to be terrible, and it was the other way around. Although the Steelers weren't very good either. I mean, the Falcons.
The Steelers were not good, so it's not that they weren't terrible. Atlanta.
So I mean, but I guess I underestimated Cousins' health at this time. I mean, it almost looked like he shouldn't have been in there really to start, which I didn't think he was going to play the first couple weeks in the preseason, and then they said they announced he's going to play, and
I think
also
they didn't play Penix in the preseason either, so their top two quarterbacks
yeah.
got no reps in the preseason.
So I was surprised he should play, but so I assumed he was healthy by him playing, but it doesn't look like it. So I do think the Eagles are going to cover. So I went closer. I went a 27-17 type of game where I could see it being double digits. So we all have the Eagles there. All right, we have some time before picks.
So just real quick, Cousins, they have it out after 2 years. It would be $35 million in dead cap. Anything before that is $90 or $65 million dead cap hit.
Which is smart if you're going to draft a quarterback, but I don't know if you should have done it in the first round, because if that's the case, you get the dead cap hit and you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract.
Yeah,
I mean, I get the strategy, but
yeah, the problem's going to be your rookie quarterback's going to be like looking for a deal by the time he's like.
You're going to have a love situation where he gets 1 year, maybe make the playoffs, and then he's the highest paid quarterback in the league for a week or whatever.
Yeah, and that's kind of
for a week.
All right, before we jump into picks, let's do a little week one recap. And I told Meeker to maybe prepare a little bit, but before Meeker has a question or two for us, I need this platform to make a statement. Kickers in the NFL shouldn't exist. The fact that they're now like the most important player on, you pick up 2 first downs and you kick a 60-yard field goal every time. It's a joke what kickers do in this league. It's a joke, and something needs to change because you can't have guys kicking 6 field goals in a game. It's ridiculous.
I'm pretty sure I heard that they set the record this week for 50-yard field goals.
And they make them all easily. They're not even like challengeable anymore. Yeah. Aubrey almost attempted a 71-yard field goal, and I think he probably would have made it. It's ridiculous.
I think you need to at least consider narrowing the uprights.
Yeah, something has to happen. They're the least important people, the most unathletic people in the sport.
But the arena league,
for some reason, they're
important.
They're
predictable. They are.
I totally agree.
No, it seems you got Warriors on the field. You got Warriors on the field laying it down, and then this scrawny little soccer player comes out and kicks. It's stupid. Honest to God, I wish they were going.
It's the evolution of the game. I mean, before 20 years ago or 25, it's like, well, Morton Anderson, Elam, and like one other guy would be like, oh, well, he'll make it over 50. Everything else, you were like, it's
and
really.
You just keep giving teams better field position. You start them on the 30, you start them on the 40. They really need to pick up 2 first downs and they could attempt a field goal. It's ridiculous. It really is.
Yep.
I mean, it just adds. I mean, not that they anticipated this, but the NFL loves offense and points.
Kickers aren't offense. That's the difference. Kickers aren't offense. I'll go to Brazil and watch soccer if I want to see a mini white guy kick a football. I don't want to see that.
Likes points. The NFL likes points, though. So I guess you look at it from that perspective. I don't know. All right, so
it just annoys me.
Let me run with some of these questions. I'll just talk about some of the observations from week 1. So, are the Bengals good enough as constructed to compete in a tough AFC North? Or are we overestimating them? Because I got them in the Super Bowl right now.
I'm not bailing yet. They're my Super Bowl winner.
First of all, they always start slow. Now, it's scary that you have them in the Super Bowl. That is scary. I'll admit that. But they always start slow. Like, we had them in Survivor, which was dumb because they always start slow. They just always do. I don't know why.
What was going on with Burrow's hand, too? Was he having hand issues already?
I don't know. He annoys me a little bit, but I don't know what his issue was. But no, I'm not ready to
They just when they got the ball within the 5-yard line, they just dropped it. They had 2 fumbles within like the 5-yard line on offense. That would have been the game.
Yeah. I mean, last year you have the built-in excuse, because Burrow was out for 5-6 games or something. But I mean, to lose at home, weren't they, against New England?
Yeah,
to lose at home to New England.
Yeah.
Didn't they start 0-3 last year or something?
2 years ago they did.
2 years ago, they made the championship game.
Slow.
I mean, look, Chase held out. He played. He did all right. Higgins is hurt and was upset. So, like, they're not have a full complement on offense right now. Their defense didn't look terrible, I don't think, but
New England's offense is terrible.
New England's offense stinks.
Terrible.
Yeah,
they ran the ball good against the Bengals, which is, when the worst team in football runs the ball good against you, against teams that in your division have really good running backs and running games. I don't know. I mean, I know this is overreaction week, because it's only
first
week
of all,
one.
Meeker, the AFC North isn't that good. Let's be honest. Baltimore is like a fraud. The Browns don't have a quarterback, and the Steelers stink. So,
yeah. I mean,
it's still tough.
Baltimore is
And when teams play each other, it's always tough games.
I think Baltimore's a fraud.
Well, let me talk about this part you're talking about with the AFC North. How long do the Browns go with this roster with Deshaun Watson at quarterback?
Well, I mean,
when do you pull the plug on this guy?
They don't really have. Who's their? Is Brissett their backup again? Who's their backup?
He's
starting for New England.
Yeah.
Oh, is their backup Winston?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, he's going to wind up playing. I don't know when, but I think he's going to play soon. I mean, we never liked him. No, I don't think any of us like.
No, but at least when he was with Houston, like he had the hurts where he can make nice plays. He makes no plays anymore. He didn't have a completion like over 5 yards or something for a while.
And it's been years. Like it's not like
years. Look,
it's been.
Stefanski got the Browns to the playoffs with Mayfield, who's been up and down, and 65-year-old Joe Flacco, who's been out of the league for 3 years.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the roster as constructed is a good team. They have a great defense. They have good. Chubb is out right now, right? But they have good skill players. This is their problem. And I know that you paid the guy. At some point in time, you have to decide, whether you want to win football games or you want to go with a guy that you paid just because you paid him.
Worst contract in league history right now.
Could be.
It's all guaranteed. They can't just cut them and save. I mean, they could, but they're eating all that money. So you sit them on the bench for $40 million a year, or you start them. I don't think they'll release them, but
if they go 2-5 to start the season, I think he's going to be gone. Not gone, but they're going to bench him before that happens. But I think that's about the time you have to make that decision.
It'll be before that.
Right. All right. Who was your biggest surprise from week one in terms of team? Like, what did you notice that a team that you thought wasn't very good and maybe they changed your mind in week one, and vice versa? Who do you think for the bad, like that you thought was pretty good and doesn't look it? I'll ask Chalky that one.
Good, but didn't look it. I guess the Bengals is the obvious choice. I'm scrolling through the list here.
I'll say quickly. I think Arizona might actually not be a bad team.
I think Gannon's a good coach.
Yeah,
actually, I don't think he's a bad coach.
Yeah,
I almost took them money line in the picks last week, and that would have lost. But I thought they played them close, but they might be an 8-9 win team.
I'll give you the Jets got blown off the field Monday night. Like
their offensive line looked horrible.
Their line, their defense were bad, yeah.
And they got torn apart on defense too. So I don't know if the 49ers are just really. 49ers obviously are very good, but they destroyed them. Like it wasn't even a game. So I don't know. Maybe the Jets.
That was my team. I thought that the Jets. We hear about this defense, and I think they're a little bit overrated. They look terrible. They let I don't know if this guy's a rookie or if he's just an undrafted free agent run all over them for 150 plus yards. That's not a good defense if you're going to let that happen on prime time. And I don't think, Rodgers' first game back, obviously give him a little bit of a break, but they didn't really turn him loose at all. Their offense was pretty lukewarm. They didn't do much on offense at all.
Their line, they didn't block for Hall. He didn't have any holes.
None.
They were getting a lot of pressure on Cousins. Yeah, I thought they got 4 new offensive linemen, and they did not look very good.
No. That to me, that would be the Jets. Obviously, the Bengals, I think, would be the choice for a team that we think is good that look bad. But yeah, I'll agree with that. All right, those are my 3 questions. That's about all I got for you. And get into the picks.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into it. We always kick it off by Jason kind of reviewing some stuff from the week.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll start with the league stats. Overs, it was 9-7 this week for overs. A lot of points, a lot of field goals. I think a lot of games went over because field goal kickers, like Tommy said, were ridiculous. Public over under was 9-7. The public spread, they were 5-10. So while it seemed to be a public week, maybe it wasn't that public. I mean, they were 5-10, but
It was the most straight up favorite wins since for a long, long time.
yeah,
Not covering the spread, just straight
Just
week one.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So I'll get into our stats. So I'll go from worst to first. And I don't make excuses. I'm making excuses this week. First of all, I went 0-2-1. My top pick, the idiot coach for the Seahawks, goes for 2 in the first quarter, and I push because of that. The Titans. Let me give you a stat on the Titans. So I think it's the last 8 years, teams that are a 4-point or more underdog that had a 17-point lead in the game were 66-1 to cover the spread. And you get Will Levis, with his maybe worst interception that I've ever seen. And then my Cowboys Browns.
Also, did you see how many yards Callum Williams threw for?
He's terrible.
He threw
Bears,
for 93 yards.
Bears are garbage. Yeah. My Cowboys Browns on there was just a bad pick. So I went 0-2-1. Tommy went 1-2. Actually, our best bets were 3-0-1. So Tommy hit his best bet with the Eagles, but he lost with the Falcons and he lost with the Browns. Chalky went 2-1. He hit with his best bet, which was Steelers and Falcons under. He had the Cowboys money line, so he hit that pretty well, plus 114. And then his third pick, as usual, loses, which was the Packers money line. And then Meeker went 2-1. He hit his best bet, which was the Bengals and Pats under. He hit with the Chargers because the Raiders have probably the worst coach in NFL history. He had, so let me mention that game. There's some kind of website out there or something. It's called cowardly punts or something. He had the most cowardly punt in the 20-something years of them keeping the stats.
What is a cowardly punt?
I guess
they were
going
down in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They were down by 1 score. They had 4th and 1 at the Chargers' 42-yard line, and he punted.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't notice, but okay.
Okay. Late in the fourth quarter. And then the Rams, he had the Rams, which was a loss. So let's go. So obviously the stats for the first week are what I just mentioned. So I'm 0-2-1. What the hell I wrote down there? No, that's best bets. I'm sorry. So best bets I just mentioned. And then I'll give you our lifetime best bets, which are actually pretty good, except for one fella. So I'm 20-14, 59%. Tommy's 20-14, 59%. Chalky's 20-16, 56%. And the one fellow who's not good on his best bets is Meeker. He's 16-19, 46%.
Try to find some sort of stat to downgrade the best bet win this week, though, right?
What do you
So
mean?
you're gonna go lifetime best bets is important.
I read them every week.
This is the
That
same
I've read
thing.
the stat.
We read this every
week. So for the week, the pod was 5-6-1. Mostly thanks to me. We lost $122, 45% win percentage, and a minus 11% ROI. Give our lifetime stats. I'm 63-44, profit of 1,309, win percentage 59%, 12% ROI. Tommy's 54-49, profit 238, win percentage 52%, 2% ROI. Chalky is 51 and 58, loss of $1,094, win percentage 47%, minus 10% ROI. Meeker 52, 53, loss of $604, 50%, really not 50%, but I guess it rounded up to 50%. But you're below 50%.
That was a way for him, Meeker, to
Yeah, well, 52
that
and
was
53,
Not 50%.
52 and 53, it rounded up to 50%, but it's really not 50%. It's below 50%. And it's 6% ROI. And
Got
lifetime.
to carry those decimal places out 2 more so that way it drops.
Yeah, I should have did that. Records 220 and 204 for the podcast. We're now at a loss of $150, 52% ROI, 52% win percentage, and a minus 0.4% ROI.
okay. We got to turn it around this week, and we'll go. So Meeker and Chalky tied for the best pick. So to break the tiebreaker, Chalky picking. I'm thinking of a number between 0 and 9. What number you thinking?
So my best bet this week
Okay, got
is going to be unders in the Tampa Detroit games. That's under 51 minus 108. Second choice is also going to be an under. I just lost my pick. Now I got to make it up. Under. Okay, right. Texans Bears.
Just out of I'm just this. Where was it that you lost? Like, what is this system you're using? Is it?
It was in my head.
Okay.
I was looking at the screen and I was like, I'll just keep this in my head, and that didn't work out well.
Got it.
Under 45.5 in the Texans Bears game. That's minus 112. Texans might put up 35, but hopefully they'll keep the Bears to only 10. And the under 40.5 in the Colts Packers game. Malik Willis is not likely to score a lot of points.
Yeah, can we talk about? He couldn't even get a Hail Mary off in 2 plays. They didn't get a. I never seen that. Oh my god! All right, Meeker.
So that's minus 108. My famous third pick.
All right. I didn't like all the totals this week. I don't know. I just don't trust the totals this week. So my best bet is the aforementioned Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to take them minus 6.5, minus 115 for all the reasons we already talked about. My second bet is the aforementioned New York Jets minus 3.5 on the road, Tennessee. That is minus 108. I think they bounce back and win against.
Chalky, are you spot checking these?
I'm sorry. What? Give me the
Eagles. What's the Eagles?
Eagles was minus 6.5, minus 115.
Okay. Jets
minus 3.5, minus 108.
Okay.
Yep. And look, this team looked terrible. They're a terrible football team. The Giants plus 1.5 against Washington. And the only reason why is because Daniel Jones, for whatever reason, is 5-1 against the Washington Commanders.
So that line is incorrect. That is plus 2 at minus 112.
Love it. All right, so I'll take the 2.
All right.
But they're a terrible football team, and I'm picking them as my third bet, going against the green.
Okay, my turn here. And usually, I like to look at the public versus the sharps, but Wednesday's a little tough. The percentages are kind of jacked up. You really don't get a good feel for it. So I had to just go to either trends or lines. So to quote Meeker, who must have got a one of those dictionary calendars, the aforementioned Arizona Cardinals.
We talked about like 3/4 of the teams in the league. Like,
yeah, I know. So
Panthers. We didn't talk about the Panthers. Somebody want to take them, you have to say
aforementioned for every team. So the aforementioned Arizona Cardinals at -1, -112, as they were an hour ago,
yes,
against the LA Rams. So I actually am high on the Rams, but Just thought that line is shady as the Cardinals are the favorite. I just see the public leaning towards the Rams. My second pick is a trend play. So there was 3 teams that blew a 10-point lead last week. Teams that blow a 10-point lead the following week, the overs hit at like an 80-something percent. When that team is involved in the next game that they blew a 10. So that's the Jaguars and the aforementioned Cleveland Browns. 41.5 is the over. I'm sorry, I didn't write down the juice. Chalky.
108.
So Cleveland Jacksonville over at 41.5. And my last pick is it's a fraud team. So I think the aforementioned Pittsburgh Steelers are total frauds. And I'm going to take Denver money line at plus 120. And that leaves you, Jason.
All right, so I'm probably going to shock you guys, but I'm actually taking the Packers at +3. I think it's -118. I think LaFleur is going to have 9 days to work with this guy. Now, I'm not expecting much from him, but he's going to have a game plan to go against a terrible Colts defense. The Colts with Anthony Richardson are giving 3 points on the road. I think the Packers are a better team.
Wasn't there a time too, Jason, where I thought we ran the numbers on like when the backup, like a quarterback gets hurt, the backup comes in that like first.
Everybody steps up their game in the first game.
Yeah, right.
I don't have that, but that's another part of my play. So, and I think the public's going to absolutely hammer the Colts. So Packers +3 -118. My second pick, Chalky, you better be right with your best bet because I have the Bucks Lions also under 51 -108. And then my third pick is going to be Chargers Panthers under 39. I think it's going to be a
The
run.
not aforementioned Carolina Panthers.
Right. Under 39
-39 in an NFL football game with no weather is so
39
low.
under 39 112.
Okay, but I think the Chargers is going to be Harbaugh is going to run the ball. It's Roman, right? They're going to run the ball. Like that's
I mean Herbert only threw for 100 and change. It was not
he's going to run the ball. The Panthers off. I mean Bryce Young is not. He's awful.
Horrible.
Right. So I just see that as being a low scoring game. That's it.
Okay. Actually, yeah, I meant that. I had it written down. I forgot. We'll end with this unless you guys have any plays for the week, and then we'll end. You have a play. Chalky?
I'm going back to the well with Jaden Daniels. I know we do our touchdown parlay. I'm using him again. He's plus 130 still. That's their only offense. He's going to run around, and I think there'll be some points in that game. So I'm going to use him as when we do our parlay. He'll be my touchdown guy.
I'll stick with the Eagles, I guess, since I hit with AJ Brown. Devontae Smith gets in the end zone this week.
Okay, and then we'll end. Mika, I'll let you make your play to Walt here, and say that the Saints did thump the Carolina Panthers and put up the most points on the week. Quick thoughts on the Saints game there. You could take a victory.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a mirage. They just played the worst team in football basically last week. I don't expect the same against the Cowboys. I think they'll keep them. I think they'll stay in the game though. I don't know that they're as bad as even I think. But at the same time, it's really no barometer playing against the worst team in football. I mean, they may cover. What's the line? 6.5.
I think that was around 6.5 as well.
6 right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they can keep it close, but I don't expect them to win. Dallas is a better team.
To pay homage to Walt, will there be any fake cheering for the?
There'll be tons of it. I see. Walt is afraid to watch any game.
Fake cheering, he says. You
playing against each other. He can't be distracted. He can't be bothered with the cheering. He can't be whatever. But I don't do that anyway. I don't cheer. I just get mad. when I watch.
He
these games.
says he sees you do kind of like like fake cheering, like
And lately, there's been not much to cheer about. It's just been getting mad.
Well, luckily
So-
your real team, the Eagles, aren't playing, so you can concentrate solely on the Saints.
yeah, he's becoming an Eagles fan. I can hear
Oh
it.
God, no.
We haven't heard a we yet, but we'll get it at some point.
It's coming.
AI is a magical thing. I could put that in anywhere I want. Episodes nowadays.
All
Sure.
right, episode 124 of Broad Street Hustle. Have a great night.